I consider myself a chronologist on the absurdity of human nature. My job is to look and observe and document human passions, human kindness, their griefs, and their jealousies, and their anguish. And that is, I say, the bedrock of the art and the narrative.
"20 years ago, Diego Romero was one of a relatively small group in Santa Fe amongst the native potters who was making contemporary art. He was taking Indian pottery into a new realm, and still is.
I really kind of let the pot speak to me. I have an idea of what shape I'm going to make, but I also listen to the clay. And it kind of has a mind of its own, so it's really a kind of a collaboration. My father was a Cochiti Indian, born and raised in the Pueblo. Went to Korea, lost a hand, wound up in the VA hospital in Oakland, California. Met my mom, who was blonde, blue-eyed Berkeley liberal, but they sincerely loved each other. I'm very comfortable being half native and half white. I look in the mirror and I just see Diego, the person.
Art has always been a big part of Diego and my childhood. We grew up in a family of artists. My brother was kind of like the ringleader of the kids in our neighborhood. And we all collected comics together. We learned to read and draw from comics.
The childhood in Berkeley, the love of comic books, eventually came into play with the passion for ceramics and pottery. I actually stumbled upon this technique in a book called African Coiled Pottery. I've been using it ever since. It's not Pueblo, but it doesn't have to be. There's more than one way to make a pot. I'll add another coil and another coil and another coil till I get to a certain height. Clay was such a hallmark of Pueblo culture. I wanted to become a traditional potter. There was so much to learn. At the Institute of American Indian Arts, I met a Hopi potter named Atale Lolama. She showed me how to make traditional pottery. Later on, I attended Otis Parsons, and I met Ralph Becerra. Ralph always emphasized craft, design, balance, why shapes and colors worked together.
This pot is a very early work of Diego Romero. When we were students, he was always in the studio working. And the meticulous work that went into, no matter what he did, there was always a demand for perfection.
I would go on later to study with Adrian Sachs at UCLA. Adrian emphasized the value of the narrative and that there was an incredible abundance of stories to be told. I remember seeing in the Getty ancient Greek pottery, and I was like, wow, these are like the first superhero comic books. So there were many influences. And it all started to kind of click in my head, and I realized I was going to be a narrative artist.
My brother and I have a two-person show here. The Chongo Brothers is a term that our relatives out in Cochiti gave us since we're little kids.
I like your painting.
Well, thank you.
Chongo is a hairstyle worn by Southwest Indians.
It's a wrap. It's a hair bun.
It also meant little monkey. I really like this, with the way you handled the brush strokes and the clouds, too.
The idea of identity is heavily embedded in my work and my brother's. I think for us, it's cultural identity.
This one is how Coyote steals fire from the fire chief. Do you remember that? Dad used to tell us that story, and that's why he has the black between his ears. He's supposed to be kind of like this rock star deity, bringing fire to man.
Our work proceeds from an indigenous perspective. That's our community. But with high rates of suicide on the reservation, low employment rates, things are rough. And if you're in that situation, what do you have? You know, what do you really have? You have your voice.
This is titled The Death of Naranjo, and Naranjo is one of the leaders of the Pueblo Revolt.
My brother sets the example of a Native person who's using voice fearlessly.
Pueblo Indians stone polish or burnish our pots. It's an ancient technique, and the stone is actually pressing it down and bringing the finest particles to the surface. No one's figured out how to do this with a machine that takes the human hand. And I do that from bottom to top.
In tribal cultures, potters are considered dangerous. They didn't do human figures because then people would wonder who that figure was and whether this was casting a spell or going to cause them problems. In New Mexico, the Mimbres people, who we know very little about, they dispersed around about 900 years ago, were the only ones that did figures. And their draftsmanship is extraordinary.
They were looking at the forest and the flowers and the animals that comprised their universe and putting it into the bowls, much in the same way that I'm doing that today, but it just happens to be issues of politics and environment, love, life, loss. This is one of my all-time favorites. I'm just so fortunate to have married Cara. At this point, life is a struggle. If you have someone you love and a partner to support you, it's less of a struggle. I always like this little crow.
Crow man?
Yeah, crow man. Isn't that clever?
I didn't know your design work went back that far, but I see now in this collection a lot of the designs that you're using.
Yeah, I guess there's this innate quality in humans where we want to tell stories, interpret the world around us through art. I have many ideas, and this would actually be the piece I'm working on right now. It's on climate change, and we have my character called Chongo on a raft at Museum Hill. All of Santa Fe at this point would be underwater. So he's kind of just pedaling by in a post-apocalyptic future.
Diego has that Mimbres gift in that he can lift the image to a curving bowl so that it becomes flat. That's very sophisticated work. On the surface, it's done in a cartoon style. Then when you get into the content, there's very often extraordinary pain, human pain.
These individuals were hanged on the Santa Fe Plaza. This was one of the many circumstances that led to the Pueblo Revolt. The two clouds are symbolic of the spirits of the two individuals ascending into the heavens. Kind of a pop reference, a play on a Pulp Fiction.
With Diego, you never know what's going to come up next.
Uma Thurman, and she's reading a book called Cochiti.
He will go into taboo areas in the Native community, alcoholism, for instance.
I've struggled in and out through my life with my drinking problem, and right now I'm currently a sober person and enjoying that. And but there's always these incidences where I kind of backslide, or for whatever reason I'll find myself in this place. Just me alone with the bottle, the fallen angel. When I visited the British Museum, there I stood in front of my pot, which was across the hall from the Rosetta Stone. And I realized in that moment that my art had truly entered the history of mankind. It's beyond my wildest dreams.